Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, U.S. authorities urge the Bahamas to sanction Russia, the Prime Minister to return from CARICOM, and Grand Bahama residents have had enough of the Port Authority. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, following Russia's attack on Ukraine, the United States is urging the Bahamas to close its airspace to Russian aircraft and limit access to the Bahamian financial system, according to U.S. Embassy Public Affairs Officer Daniel Durazo. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Philip Davis said CARICOM was considering imposing sanctions on Russia. Durazo says the U.S. welcomes efforts by allies and partners to make Russian President Vladimir Putin pay the price for his unprovoked and unjustified attack on Ukraine. He added the U.S. is also encouraging its partners, like the Bahamas, to add to humanitarian assistance in support of the Ukrainian people.
And we thank the Bahamas for the strong stance that it has taken thus far, and we continue to encourage the Bahamas to take concrete steps to counter Russia, such as by limiting Russia's access to the Bahamian financial system and restricting Bahamian airspace to Russian aircraft. We welcome efforts by our allies and partners to make Putin pay the price for his unprovoked and unjustified attack on an independent and democratic Ukraine. We are also encouraging our partners to add to humanitarian assistance in support of the Ukrainian people.
Meanwhile, CARICOM member states coming to a general consensus in its intersessional meeting Wednesday to wait until the UN Security Council passes a resolution to confirm that member states ought to impose sanctions. CARICOM members say they will abide by the outcome of such a resolution. Prime Minister Philip Davis is on his way home tonight following a week-long trip to San Pedro, Belize. The impact of COVID-19 on member states was also discussed, with Prime Minister Davis promoting his position on the health crisis. In other news, a group of fed-up protesters took to the streets of Grand Bahama today, expressing outrage with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. They presented the GBPA with a list of demands and gave them 30 days to respond or else. Berthany McDermott has the details.
We come back declaring war on the Grand Bahama Port Authority because enough is enough.
Grand Bahamians took to the streets in protest against the Grand Bahama Port Authority as they believe the GBPA has failed the island.
Free Grand Bahama! Free Grand Bahama! Free Grand Bahama!
The state of our island is unacceptable. You lack maintenance, you lack development, and you lack management of our city. And we're calling on you to do what you have been called to do and to make sure that it gets done. And we're calling on the executives to work harder. If you're working now, work harder in making sure that this island is developed and it goes back to the state we once knew it to be. A functioning international airport, a functioning hospital, a functioning robust economy with businesses and all sorts of other stuff.
Residents marched from D's Car Rental Limited on West Mall Drive to the GBPA on Mall Drive to present a document with their list of demands.
This is a document, sir, from the people of Grand Bahama, business owners with issues and concerns.
According to protest organizer Darren Cooper, they're giving the Port Authority 30 days or they will be back. The group was joined by Central Grand Bahama Member of Parliament Iram Lewis and former Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine. Residents say they're not satisfied with the Port Authority.
All they do all day long is collect tax. The other day I wrote a check at Bronx. Why? Because I don't have no money in my account. Okay? All they do every month, you for sure you're going to get a bill from Port Authority. But their job is to bring investors here to grow the economy. They sit down all day just collecting tax from us Bahamian people.
Change, man. Grand Bahama need a change.
But as the crowd of disgruntled locals marched into the yard of the GBPA to present their document, things got a bit heated as officials from the Port Authority sought to address the crowd. This as GBPA President Ian Roll advised residents to read the Hawksbill Creek Agreement for themselves.
Right now, there's too much emotional charged persons who lack the knowledge because they have not read. Okay? Yes.
We understand that we prevail. We cannot get resolution if we are fighting each other and not listening to what we have to say. We came out here to show you the respect to meet with you. We didn't hide behind walls. We didn't hide behind buildings. We faced you. Understand that this is not an easy position to be in, and we are just like you.
The GBPA president said they're open to constructive criticism as they aim to do their best in the delivery of service. The GBPA pledged to provide a forum for residents to express their concerns.
We look forward to talking. That's what we want. We want to not just be called stakeholders, but we want to be stakeholders. We want to be involved. We want to be able to get our island where we want it to be, booming with a robust economy.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The Ministry of Grand Bahama issuing a statement on today's demonstration, noting that under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, the Grand Bahama Port Authority is responsible for development, administration, management, and provisions of services within the port area. Further, the statement said the Davis administration advocates compassionate leadership and has expressed repeatedly that social consciousness is an integral part of the restoration of Grand Bahama. For the full statement, visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Well, several of the country's most outspoken environmental groups sounding the alarm about a highly contagious and deadly disease that they say has ravaged more than 100 miles of coral reefs since 2019. Local environmental experts have dubbed it Coral COVID and say if nothing is done now, the country's coral reefs could be wiped out in 5 years. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Bahamas National Trust, as well as 2 other environmental groups, held an emergency press conference today, insisting coral COVID has become a much bigger issue than anyone could have ever imagined. The Bahamas National Trust and local chapters of Waterkeepers Alliance and the Perry Institute for Marine Science all say the situation has reached a critical point as stony coral tissue loss disease has been confirmed around 6 islands. BNT Executive Director Eric Carey.
Coral reefs are a building block in the ecological world. They are fundamentally important, and they are absolutely under threat from this disease. This disease is unlike anything we have ever seen. This monster is different. This monster is a cancer. This is the underwater COVID pandemic for coral reefs.
According to the environmentalists, coral COVID was first discovered in reefs around Grand Bahama in 2019 and has since spread to reefs around New Providence, the Berry Islands, Eleuthera, San Salvador, and Long Island. And if that's not bad enough, they say the coral disease that was first discovered in Florida in 2014 has already wiped out 80 to 90% of certain brain coral around Grand Bahama. Executive Director of Waterkeepers Bahamas, Rashima Ingram, who is based in Grand Bahama, says the coral damage there has been devastating.
We don't want to see devastation to the point where we cannot correct what is happening. We want to be able to go there now and do as much as we can to at least remedy the disease so that we're able to at least save what we have.
Perry Institute marine conservationist Lashanti Jupp says they have come up with a strategy to do just that and save the remaining coral reefs.
We already have evidence from other countries. It's not only here in the Bahamas. There has been proven solutions based in Florida and the USVI. We have the treatment on standby and ready to go. It's just a matter of making sure that we can get into the water and do this. As I said, Megan is on our coral team. She's one of the many people who have actually been trained in how to administer this treatment, and not only from the Perry Institute for Marine Science. We've had government officials as well as other NGOs such as BNT have staff that are trained to do this. So we're on the verge of just needing to literally dive into the water.
Carey says taking immediate action has been challenging as there has been a holdup getting permits from the relevant government agencies. However, he did say they got a favorable and encouraging response after meeting with several government officials this morning. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former Senator Patricia Coakley laid to rest today following a public viewing in the Senate chamber this week. Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper was among parliamentarians, senators, and senior law enforcement paying respects to the former senator. Coakley served 1 term in the 1990s. Acting PM Cooper described Coakley as a nation builder. Opposition leader Michael Pintard thanked her for her service to the country. In his statement, Prime Minister Philip Davis said he was deeply saddened to learn of the death of his friend. Well, beautiful conditions across the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Christine, and a happy Friday evening, everybody. A nice evening outside. We don't have any rain in the forecast, and actually we don't have any on the outdoors. Mostly clear skies, temperatures in the mid-70s, 75. Your winds are out of the east-northeast, and they are picking up in speed at 16 miles per hour. Your feel-like temperature very comfortable, 73. We had some showers early this morning. A band of moisture moved across the northwest Bahamas, and it's now just to the west of Andros, but we are watching an area down near the southeast Bahamas. A little disturbance out there in the low levels, bringing some isolated showers and possibly some thunderstorms across the southeast and central Bahamas. We expect that system to remain in place throughout the weekend, but high pressure will be building in. Winds will be on the increase. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, don't be fooled by crypto scammers. More money for the tourism industry, and up and away as Lennox takes flight. That's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
Fintech experts are warning social media users about potential scams involving digital assets, namely cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. Kendino Knowles reports tonight that scammers have hacked a number of social media accounts locally, targeting the followers of those users with claims of massive returns on small blocks of Bitcoin.
If somebody can come to you and say, hey, $500, I could turn that into $10,000 in a week, why wouldn't they just be solely doing it for themselves?
It's a question local fintech professional NN Fernandez says users on Facebook and its Instagram platform should be asking themselves when they come across posts or accounts promoting cryptocurrencies. He was speaking specifically to a recent incident where hackers took control of a local user's account and began a series of posts to followers claiming they had invested a minimum amount in Bitcoin and received an up to $50,000 return in the space of 3 hours. As seen here, the hackers, now posing as the local user, posting photos of a luxury car purchase.
The whole scheme behind that is, okay, if they get to someone's account that you're privy to or a close friend of yours, you're thinking, oh boy, that's my boy, or that's my home girl. Shoot, if she could do it, let me jump in. So now they'll start messaging you, sending you a DM or a private message saying, yeah, man, this all I had to do, this all I do to get it. And then now you go ahead doing it, and now you got scammed too. And then they'll also hack your account. And it's kind of like a chain reaction, right?
Michael Clare, a certified blockchain expert and financial professional, sharing that scenario, saying there are bad actors in the space who will capitalize on the ignorance of users, targeting those in low-income countries, particularly those who may be looking for a quick fix to financial problems or have aspirations of wealth.
They would more so target the most vulnerable with these less valuable or worthless coins, get you to invest in it. Once they get your funds, they take off with it.
I would say the simple thing of always is, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. If it was possible for everybody to buy Bitcoin and make $100,000, we'd all be rich.
Fernandez saying that those interested in investing in cryptocurrency should first consider the fact that it is no different than options in the existing equities market.
It's a lot more than just, I'm going to buy something and I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow. It's not as simple as that. You have to actually do your research and understand, just like everything else in life.
Reporting for our news, I'm Kendino Knowles.
With an influx of tourists due to more cruise ships being in port, operations seem to be improving for some tourism workers of downtown Nassau. However, there are still improvements that can be made. Cale Campbell reports.
Business has gotten better for tourism workers downtown, particularly the stall vendors and taxi drivers who operate right by Prince George's Dock, thanks to an increase of cruise ships arriving to New Providence post the fourth COVID wave.
Sales has begun to pick up now from to compare with 2021 to now. I was seeing an increase in sales, but not every day. sales are always at its peak. Some days we have our slow days, some days we have our times when we succeed, when we do well.
With the cruise ship and the tourists coming in now, I think things has been just a little bit much better for us. So we do appreciate what's going on right now, and I think there's more to come. You know, in the near future there's more to come, but things is looking a little bit better now.
Back in December, when the U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention upgraded the Bahamas to a level 4 on its travel advisory, warning Americans against coming to the country, tourism numbers took a hit.
The advisory didn't affect us coming here. From the U.S. it was fine, everything was okay. As long as it was okay for us to come into the Bahamas, we were fine with coming.
We actually found out a little after, and we were a little surprised, but everything seems pretty good here.
Despite the uptick in business, there were still some grievances from tourism workers.
It's been very challenging. It's not consistent at all. First of all, we needed proper signs. Before this place opened, they should have had proper signs, which they promised, and we didn't get them. And so that affects traffic, because even though we're right across the street, people don't know that we're here. We had an issue a couple of weeks ago, and then they made a promise to reroute the gate, the exit, right over here. They said it was going to be done 2-3 weeks, but that's changed, and we don't know when that is going to happen, but that needs to happen because we're right across the road from the street, and it's very challenging. Sometimes we're here for hours with no business.
I mean, some days you come here, you make money. Some days you come here, you don't make nothing. Okay, depends on the day, depends on the ship, depends on the shipper's end. You know, that has a lot to do with it. You know, depends on the shipper's end.
When taxi drivers make money, the country could be more blessed, because we take people over the hill, take people to your uncle's shop, your aunt's shop, or the little people selling things on the street. Somebody could eat, somebody could make something, and that's what I found out about taxi. That's why I took it on to be in the business, because I found that it's not just for me, but it's just for my other brothers and sisters who are out there too, looking for somebody to bring a business to them.
For Our News, I'm Cale Campbell.
Still to come on Our News, the youth minister says young entrepreneurs will get the tools they need. And don't miss Lennox when he takes flight, when Our News comes back from the break.
Got size at 6'5".
Hi, this is Salute.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Aspiring young entrepreneurs will continue to get access to the tools and resources necessary to successfully launch and manage their businesses through a grant-based youth empowerment program. That's according to Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Mario Bowleg, who made the declaration during a ceremony where checks were presented to program participants.
The future success of our country is determined on the amount of investment be placed into our younger generations. Our investment must cater to the growth and development of our young people and to provide them with the opportunity to be inspired and empowered.
Bowleg says successful participants are awarded grants of up to $5,000.
In 2019, more than 300 youths eagerly applied for the 168 grants available for this program. We are happy to be in position to finally honor our commitments to our young people by paying out of these grants. For any number of reasons, these grants were not paid, and for this we extend our apologies. However, I am happy to announce that we are now in the position to pay out 60 of the 168 grants.
Well, how long will these breezy conditions last in Nassau? Greg has the answer coming right up.
Got size at 6'5".
Hi, this is Salute.
Welcome back to our news. We saw breezy conditions pick up today. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead.
Thanks again, Christina. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. Weakening frontal boundary just to the east of the Bahamas, north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, has a bit of a disturbance along its western flank, generating some cloudiness as well as some showers and thunderstorm activity across the central and southeast Bahamas. We expect that to remain in place for at least another 24 hours. It's going to be slowly moving towards the west, but high pressure to the north of that will keep that at bay. But that high is going to be strengthening over the next couple of days. So beaching and boating for the weekend will be a big challenge. We're asking you boaters, if you plan on doing any boating this weekend, stay in port because the winds are going to get very strong on there. Beachgoers, we're asking you to remain out of the waters due to the high risk of rip currents. That high will eventually slide out. So by Monday, Tuesday, we expect these winds to start to fall off, and then a nice upcoming week for us expected. Boating for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Small craft advisory posted. Remember, I asked boaters, if you're not really have to get out there, stay in port. Northeast to east winds, 20 to 25 knots. They will be gusting higher. Seas will be running 5 to 8 feet over the ocean, and they will be higher in those gusts. Your high tide will be at 9:17 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look at your extended forecast through next Friday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening and have a great weekend, everybody. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. When a Bahamian American mother prepared to travel with her son, Lennox, she couldn't find many books about travel for children and certainly none with characters of color. So she created it herself. Our Sasha Lightbourne has the story.
Iolani Bullock wanted to find a travel book for her then 2-year-old son, but she couldn't. So she did the unthinkable. She decided to write a book herself. The book, called Lennox Takes Flight, was published in December 2021.
It was during the height of the pandemic. I was pregnant with our daughter, and there was so much racial injustice happening in the U.S. and all around the world. And so for me, writing the book was really a way to resist that, because I was writing about Black joy. It's a positive book. It's a great, fun story for children and families to read. And so I feel so proud that I was able to get it out, because there were so many barriers that we're all facing.
She says she started writing the book in her phone and initially envisioned it would be something very simple.
And I heard about a program through my master's university at Georgetown in DC that has a program to help people write books. So I reached out to them and they said, "Oh, we love the story. Let's chat." We had a conversation and they said, "Sorry, we don't do children's books." And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? A week later, I get a call and they said, "We're going to open a children's chapter book cohort. It will be the first. You're going to be a guinea pig. And if you're up for it, we would love to have you. But your book can't be a rhyme book. It has to be a chapter book. So you have to develop the characters, create the narrative, create the story for children to live in and be in, so that it's at least 100 pages. And that was never the original intent, but I was up for the challenge.
Bullock also says the process was not an easy one.
The writing process is hard. You get writer's block. You have to really figure out which way do I go from here? It's not easy, but I would use really random things there's an app called Otter AI. So I would sit in my car while I'm driving them to daycare and just dictate ideas and dictate stories, and it would turn it into text that I could then edit. I would do these things called writer sprint. So write for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Write for 25 minutes, anything that came to your mind, so that, you're just getting it out on paper.
Lennox Takes Flight centers around Lennox, an imaginative kid who loves airplanes and who dreams of the day he will get to fly. In preparing for the family trip overseas, he learns his great-grandfather was a Tuskegee airman who earned pilot wings. He cannot wait to board his first flight and get some wings of his own, until his excitement causes him to lose his passport in the airport. He and his little sister Tegan set out on an adventure to find it before their flight takes off. You can find the book on Amazon or lennoxtakesflight.com. For our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
That sounds like quite an adventure. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.